There are a lot of terrible resources and bad advice on how to create characters out there, so I want to crawl through the sludge to pull out all the best bits and make this process as simple and easy as possible. If you're an avid Pinterest user like I am, you've probably seen stuff like 100 questions to ask about your character, or your character isn't fleshed out enough if you don't know this about them, and yada yada yada. That stuff isn't completely useless, but it doesn't really help you start. So, here's how you do that. Step 1. Write yourself a paragraph describing what you want your character to be like. It doesn't have to be long, it just has to give you a sense of who they are. Basic things like their gender, their age, if they're an introvert or an extrovert, and what their role in the story will be, as well as the certain quirks and traits you want from their personality. You can make a cool character just for the sake of it, but if you try and shove them in without giving them anything to do, that's gonna handicap you as a writer, hold your story back, and be a disservice to that character. So it's best to know their role from the start, or just keep them up your sleeve until you find a role that they fit. Step 2. Give them a background. Write a few paragraphs filling in the story of their life and how they became the character you envision them becoming. What situation were they born into? What was their childhood, teenage years, a young adulthood, and so on like? What are some of the defining moments of their life that led them to who they are and where they are when they enter your story? It might seem superfluous, but trust me, it isn't. If you fill this in, you'll be giving yourself material to pull from, and you'll make them more realistic and believable. Their experiences will shape their personality and drive their actions. Step 3. Begin to flesh out your character's personality. You should already have their basic personality in mind, and in writing their background, you should know things like their financial status, the level of their education, and what things and moments have shaped their life so far. Now combine the two. Ask how their background, in combination with their inherent qualities, would make their personality more nuanced. Step 2 and 3 build off of each other. The more you know about their background, the more you will know about their personality, and the more you know about their personality, the more you can add to their background to explain it. At first, this will be difficult, so don't push yourself too hard in the beginning. This is when you should consider your first draft of the character complete. As you write with them and use your notes to gauge how they would react to situations you put them in, go back and use what you learn about them to expand on their background and fill in the finer details of their personality. As this process goes along, your characters will naturally grow into themselves, and once you intuitively understand them, they'll start to tell you what to do. One of the things you can do is write a page from each character's perspective, have them introduce themselves to you, give a brief summary of their life as they would tell it. Are they open with strangers or are they reserved? Have them share their thoughts on important subjects, events, places, other characters, topics, morals and themes, and so on, that are relevant to the story. And before you write, note down vocal tics, repeated phrases and slang and so on. Ask how their background affects how they speak, what terms and phrases are unique to their native dialect that they might use, and how thickly do they speak with it. What about their education, or lack thereof, or their social class, and how that might shape the way they speak, even their profession. A great way to kickstart the process of figuring these things out is by using a character checklist or quiz as a series of prompts. Answer them with all the things you already know about the character in mind. Ask what their reasoning is, what led to the logic behind their reasoning, and what that says about them, and then use those answers to expand on their character profile. So, to celebrate GTA 6's first trailer, I'm going to talk about Nico Bellic from GTA 4, and just because I really like him. Nico is from Eastern Europe, likely Yugoslavia, that part of the world. He grew up in poverty and fought in the Yugoslav wars as a teenage soldier, witnessing and taking part in atrocities. During the war, he served with a unit made up from people from his hometown. Eventually, they were betrayed and he was one of 3 survivors. After the war, he became a criminal, serving time in prison and then becoming involved in smuggling and human trafficking. After falling out with his boss, Nico joined the merchant navy to escape him and eventually left for Europe for America, hoping to turn a new leaf, as well as in search of the other 2 survivors of his unit, who he suspects betrayed them, to finally get closure. It's at this point that the game begins.
2 things. You remember, during the war, we did some bad things. And bad things happened to us. War is where the young and stupid are tricked by the old and bitter into killing each other. I was very young and very angry. Maybe that is no excuse. Roman? Roman! Are you sleeping, you fat fuck? Come on!
The circumstances of Nico's young life led him to have a cynical, almost nihilistic worldview, but he's also frustrated, regretting much of his past and wanting something better. I think Nico is a perfect example of a pessimist who is deep down a disappointed idealist.
Life is complicated. I never thought I'd live like this.
No?
When the war came, I did bad things. And after the war, I thought nothing of doing bad things. I killed people, smuggled people, sold people.
And you don't worry about your soul?
After you walk into a village and you see 50 children, all sitting neatly in a row against the church wall, each with their throats cut and their hands chopped off, you realize that the creature that could do this doesn't have a soul.
God is very complicated. You mustn't give up hope.
Well, I don't know about that.
He's soft-spoken and respectful unless provoked, and he has empathy for those in bad situations and is willing to go out of his way to help them, and even to give them charity.
Nico, it's Marnie!
Hey, how are you? Are you off the heroin?
Mostly.
Right, okay.
It is okay. Fucking dick.
Calm down. I'll see you later.
Fuck you!
What's wrong?
I can't do it anymore. I can't do it! I've really fucked up this time. I screwed over a John. I'm gonna get killed. And I'm not really like this.
No? What kind of heroin-addicted prostitute are you like?
I've got a nice family. I'm just fucked up. I've gotta go home.
Where's home?
The Midwest. I mean, it's pretty boring, but this is no life. I mean, look at me. I was a fucking cheerleader once.
Hey. Come on. Let's go.
Yet he's also perfectly willing to kill and commit violent crimes for money, because his experiences at a young age desensitized him to violence and the idea of violence for profit.
It's a business thing are going down there.
Right.
They are selling weed, but they're not supposed to sell weed, and they're not cutting them in.
Okay.
So when you go down there and deal with them, see?
Right. It's not going to be cheap. Where do I find them?
Cheap? Cheap, my youth? You worry about cheap?
Tell you what. Let's go hit those Russian fuckers right now.
You know what, rude boy? Come here, we go deal with them boy there right now.
One of Nico's defining qualities is his loyalty. Two of the few things that cause Nico to lose his temper is having his loyalty questioned and when the people he cares about are threatened.
I'm glad you turned up and made some Russian killers burn down my home and business. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Nico. Thanks a bunch. Is that better?
March! Fuck you! Strange choices! How much?
1,000.
You killed my friends for $1,000.
How much do you charge to kill someone?
You ruined me, you fuck!
Nico is a confident man who is sure of his ability to handle himself, which was forged by his experiences at war and in the European criminal underworld, and he maintains his composure in almost every situation he finds himself in.
Hello?
I'm busy.
I said hello!
Ow!
Is your
Motherfucker!
boss around?
What'd you do that for?
Is your boss around?
Yeah, he's around. Brucey, some fucking Polak asshole for you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
He's not a... I got you, man. I'm big, but I'm also fast. Wake up, boy!
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you show me that again?
Hey! Ah! Oh! Ah! Oh! Enough, man! Enough! Oh! Oh! Fuck me,
You'll be
man.
alright, huh?
Oh, that's some Red Army shit, serious.
I'm gonna saw off your fucking arm. Speak!
Okay. You're dead like sit up the ass. What do you want me to say, huh? Ah!
Very funny. Do you think you're so smart?
No! I'm tied up in the basement a long way from home, but some ape threatens me with a hacksaw. So no, I'm not that smart.
Shut the fuck up!
The only times it is broken and when he loses his temper is when he's lied to, manipulated, or betrayed, at which he becomes violently angry.
Stop this!
Huh? What of that? Who are you?
Get out of here.
What?
Yes. What about you?
Help me!
Come on, Tupac.
Landon! Help me!
Get out of here now! And if you come back, I'll kill you. You understand? You were the stupid one, Vladdy boy. Nobody fucks with my family.
Some minor details include that in combat he screams threats and war cries, likely picked up during his time as a soldier, which is inverse to his normally quiet and reserved demeanor. He's introverted. He has a cynical, wry sense of humor.
Yoko, Fetira Manskaza. What's your name again?
Big mouth prick.
Veracashes. Sit down.
You're bringing a lot of heat. Hang out with bad people, doing bad things, making idiot moves.
I'm an idiot. I move.
True.
His family's house didn't have electricity until he was 12. His father was implied to be abusive. He had a brother who was killed in the war. He knows that his cousin's mother was raped and murdered, but he told him she died in a house fire to spare him the pain of that knowledge. The only time violence truly shocked him was when his serial killer described what he did to his victims.
I like to get spanked.
Fuck off. You're creeping me out.
No, I don't want to make you angry, Nico. I don't want to be creepy. It's just my way. Eddie's taken your star son, your prized little quarterback, and fucked him in the ass. And then tied him up, strangled him into knots. And your daughter? Your pretty little daughter, Mrs. Abrahams? And he's ripped out her intestines just to see if he could feel anything. And you know what? He couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't.
He's skeptical of American culture, which he thinks is hypocritical, and he says that the American dream is a lie.
These are fucking $500 shoes! Doesn't that mean something to you?
No.
He's neither left nor right-wing, being disgusted by politicians in general, and he believes the American government is no better than those he fled back home.
My name is Karen.
Interesting. And you whore for the government. I kind of like the honesty in that.
I have a clear conscience.
How very lucky for you.
You can't always tell who the good guys are. I'm not a good guy, but I'm fighting with them. And guess what? So are you.
Hooray.
With all that in mind, here's how I think he would answer some questions from a character development quiz by Schrodinger's Owen. Can he use chopsticks? Probably not. I can see him trying to learn out of politeness, but Nico's a sort of no-nonsense kind of person. I don't see him bothering with finery like that when a fork would do. What does he do when he can't sleep? I imagine he doesn't struggle to sleep. I've heard that soldiers in combat zones tend to develop the ability to fall asleep and wake up at an instant no matter where they are, because they learn to rest as much as possible because they don't know when they'll be able to again. And it's kind of a gameplay mechanic where Nico, when he goes to sleep, he just goes to bed fully clothed and falls asleep immediately. But on occasions when he really just can't fall asleep, I imagine he'd just lay in bed in silence until he either falls asleep or has to get up. Alternatively, if he can't sleep because he's overthinking, assuming he's at home, he might just drink until he could pass out drunk. Introverts tend to be introspective, and Nico has a lot of regrets and probably some PTSD, so he might try to run away from that stuff that keeps him up at night with alcohol. What would he impulse buy at a grocery store? Probably nothing. Nico's practical, so unless he has money to burn, he probably wouldn't impulse buy. A wealthy late-game Nico would probably want to buy the nice things he hasn't had for most of his life, so he would buy the highest quality version of whatever he's buying. And maybe he'd like to bling himself out with like nice cars and clothes. Like you have the ability to buy deluxe ringtones, so maybe Nico would go in for stuff like that just because it feels good to finally have money and to be able to get whatever he wants. So he might impulse buy nice things. What order does he wash himself in the shower? He'd probably do it in the order of priority for a soldier. I'm kind of guessing here, but I guess it would probably start with anywhere with hair, since soldiers in the field keep their hair short and clean to prevent lice and as a display of discipline, as well as because the armpits and groin area would start to smell and no man wants a rash or infection around the dicular region. Then it would probably be his feet, because soldiers need to take care of their feet. Then everywhere else. What's his coffee order? I doubt Nico has a refined palate, growing up poor and in the military, so he'd probably drink it black or with just milk. Maybe in America he'd grow to appreciate a latte, but I imagine he'd keep it simple. How does he act around children? I imagine Nico would be kind, patient, and sympathetic to most kids. If he ever had to discipline a kid, I can imagine him being stern but fair. However, he definitely wouldn't take any shit from a kid who's being a brat. Growing up in a harsh environment where he had to be tough, I could see Nico thinking that spanking is a fitting punishment for an exceptionally badly behaved kid. However, as I said, it was hinted that Nico's father was abusive, and given how Nico is more empathetic than spiteful, I think it would take a lot to make Nico raise his hand against the kid. So yeah, I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of how the character creation process is. And like I said, normally I'd make my own character as an example, but I just wanted the chance to talk about Nico since I love him, and he's one of the inspirations for one of my characters. And Rockstar has a nasty habit of killing off characters from their previous games and their new ones, like Johnny Klebitz or Klebitz, I don't know. So while I'm really hoping we get to hear more of him and maybe get a cameo, I hope Nico gets a happy ending more. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful to you. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you like my other stuff as well, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.